We are happy to welcome Veda Cruz onto Break the Business. Hello, Veda.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So excited to be chatting with you. This is going to be a delight. I don't know how much you heard of us in the first segment gushing about just how cool your job is and how envious we are of what you get to do. And not only is what you do really cool, I mean, being in-house lawyer for a game studio, but the story of how you got there is almost equally as cool, because being an in-house attorney at any Plum Entertainment organization, whether it's like a record label or a movie studio, nobody gets these jobs straight out of law school. These jobs, you gotta grind it out in a law firm, just, doing stupid hours in a windowless office, just miserable 20-hour days, the whole kind of mess. And even for somebody like you that's super educated and skilled at what they do, like, these jobs don't go to people straight out of law school, but you got this gig straight out of school. And I think part of it, and I think there's some lessons in how you were able to do it, because it was a consequence of not only your passion for the business, not only your knowledge, but your networking skills, how you got involved in the industry, and how you were able to get where you are. So can you tell us a little bit about that origin story?
Yes, my lore. Okay, so my lore dates back to being in law school at the University of Miami. And I mean, this one goes out to all the law students who are struggling in their 1-0 year, because I struggled and I almost quit. It was like a whole thing. And that's where the MBA side of it came from, right? So I'm bringing that up because in my last year of law school, which ended up being an extra year because of the MBA, I was really torn on what I wanted to do. And I wasn't sure, because I knew that I needed to figure it out. And doing the MBA and doing law school at the same time was like, I want something that combines business and law. And then there was this one short course at the University of Miami. I don't know if you heard about it, Ryan, but it was video game law. And I took that course and I was the gunner. I'm never the gunner, but I was like raising my hand all the time, like, and I just love video games, right? So hearing that video game studios have lawyers was a crazy novel idea that obviously makes sense to everybody else, but in the moment I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. It was a 1-week short course and I fell in love with it, and I was like, I need to get into the game industry. I don't know how, but I gotta figure it out. And I just started the hustle of networking. I went on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, every single outlet, Twitch, everything that I could muster to get my name out there and put myself out there so that I could be noticed by fellow video game lawyers and other people in the industry. I was doing it. And it culminated with GDC, where I really wanted to attend because I knew that there would be industry
Game Developers Conference.
Yes, Game Developers Conference, yes. I knew that there'd be a lot of networking opportunities there, and I was like, this pass is $2,500, and I'm a law school student with another degree. Like, it's too expensive to get to San Francisco and to stay there, and it was just a lot. So I was like, how do I at least get the pass covered or something? I considered going in as like a press journalist or something, but then I found that you could volunteer. So I applied to this volunteer program. It was called the CA program, Conference Associate. They call it the networking opportunity of a lifetime, and I cannot agree more. It just so happened that not only did I get accepted late, because I found out about this way after the deadline, like 3 months after the deadline. Someone canceled, thank you, and I got accepted, and then I went over to San Francisco, and it just so happened that there was another lawyer there, and that like never happened. In the 4 years that I've been volunteering there since then, there has not been another lawyer, but that year there was. And spoiler alert, he's my boss now. But he was over there, and then we connected, and he just told me, hey, if you're still looking for a job after you pass the bar in September, let me know. So I was like, okay. So after that, I finished GDC. I went back home, finished finals, whatever. I went to another event of the Video Game Bar Association. And there, I emailed the Video Game Bar Association director, and I was like, please let me volunteer. I'll serve coffee. I don't care. And then they let me. So I went over there, huge networking opportunity. I met so many other lawyers in the video game industry, and it was awesome. And after that, I saw my current boss, lawyer person, there again. And after that, we connected. And obviously, I went back home, took the bar, passed it. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn, and I was like, hey, so about that job. And he told me just sending your resume. And I was like, okay. So I sent it in. Obviously, I made sure it was like really nice. And bada bing, bada boom. They flew me out to Texas to interview me. I interviewed with Randy, our CEO, and everybody else. And then I got the job. And I've been so grateful ever since. It's such a dream come true.
That's incredible. Gideon, I don't know how much you know about sort of the job getting process for law students, but it's instructive here. And I think there's a lesson in this for indie creators as well, because this process for getting a job as a law student is highly regimented. Starting in after your first year, you do what's called on-campus interviews, where you interview with a bunch of law firms that descend upon the school. And then that's how you get your summer job between your first and your second year, your summer job between your second and third year. And then that job in the summer usually leads to your job at your law firm. And then that job leads to another job, which leads to another job. And it's a pipeline. And nobody is allowed to go outside of the pipeline. You have to stay. It's something about our legal profession. Like you can't color outside the lines. Except Veda said, well, why can't I color outside the lines? Why do I need to go through this like silly regimented cattle call of an interview procedure? I'm going to go right to the people who make the decisions. I'm going to meet them where they are. I'm going to go to those conferences. I'm going to contact the right people, and I'm going to make that personal touch. And so she was able to skip a lot of steps in this line and get to that dream job where she gets to do this really cool stuff. I mean, I think there's lessons in this for indie creators too, right? Gideon, about like how you don't have to follow the same path. You don't have to just go to terrestrial radio or something like that or just do TikTok. Find your own path to success, because I think in this industry more than any other, you can do that now.
Yeah. In business and in private equity, investment banking, all those things, it's regimented, but not like it is in the law. And without a doubt, finding an original off-road path is really the story of for me, some of the most unique artists and business people in history. I mean, when I got to work with John Scofield, who was, of course, one of the great living jazz guitar players, I wrote him a poem, and everybody said, contact his record label and do this and do that. I just wrote the guy a poem, and he liked it and said, sure, I'll play with you. Send me your music. So as far as I'm concerned, that was about as off the beaten path as you could do. He's like, who is this guy writing me a poem? Should I get a restraining order? Who is this guy? And so in the end, it was cool. It worked.
I love this. Now, in this dream job, Veda, that you have now, where you are making law happen for some of my favorite video games, which is so cool. And you're doing it as a Miami person, as a fellow Miami person. We love it when, people, especially the University of Miami, for which I'm also an alum, seeing somebody from there succeed. I love this for you, and I'm just curious, what does a typical day look like for you in this role? And please don't give us no day is typical, every day is different. All right, we accept that premise. Give us an example of the kind of work you're doing every day over there.
For sure. I wake up. Step one. Step two, I have a lot of fun because it really is. I'm about to say it. I'm sorry.
No, come on.
Because being in-house counsel, I was thrown into the fire when I first got there, and we touch so many different areas of law that you really have to be a true generalist in so many different things. And you have to know how to identify when, you can take this on or when you have to pass it off to someone who knows the area a little better. So for example, I'll wake up and I'll do a contract. I'll be redlining, I'll be reviewing. It could be a publishing deal. It could be a licensing deal. It could be myriad of other contracts that keep the business running. So it could be IT, employment. There's so many different contracts. That's the core of a lot of the things that I do. But besides the contract, what I find most fun is working as close to the devs as possible, which means I get to work with the game as much as possible. I carved that path for myself because I said I like intellectual property. I've always said that. And a lot of what I do is what's called asset reviews, right? So anything that makes it into the game gets legal review. Some things like rocks, sure, I can review it, but what am I going to say about a rock? But other things are more important, like main characters or important story points, or, Borderlands is known for parody. So it's always a very fine line that we walk in order to be funny the way that we are. And I totally support it. I love it. But we want to make sure that we're doing it in the right way, right? So Asset reviews are a big part of it. Privacy is a huge part of it that I just got thrown into, and I swear it's Stockholm syndrome that now I like it, and I find it super important for us to care about our privacy, and our company's privacy and our employees' privacy, everything. Like it's actually really important. Not only privacy, but let's see. I mean, I do mocap too. So like I've done that. I suit up in like the suit, and then I've done that. But we're talking about legal. Sorry. So
I was about to say, what class in law school prepared you for that? I remember that on the bar exam.
Right. Honestly,
I have
the martial arts. Huh?
Oh, I had a question for you, but I also interrupted, so I'm happy to wait.
Well, I think I'm done. I mean, it's I said intellectual property, I said privacy, I said contracts. I'm pretty sure there's something else here that's like really important that I'm missing, but I mean, it'll come when it comes.
More important than mocap.
It's more important than mocap. Exactly.
So what I was going to ask, and I didn't want to interrupt because I have two lawyers here, and like I don't know, maybe you guys could bring a cause of action against me if I say something. If I interrupt twice or something like that, I got to be very.
I mean,
careful.
the two lawyers thing is one thing, but how about two Miamians? Like you'll never get a word in edgewise.
I'm surrounded. So here's my question. Creative people don't like to be held back, right? And video games are edgy, they're intense. Right, like when I go downstairs and I check out the video game that my son's playing, sometimes I'm like shocked. I'm like, oh my God, this is intense as hell in so many social ways. And so, as being counsel for a company that makes an intense product, right? How you say you like working with the devs. I'm pretty sure you said that a minute ago, right? So you love working with the devs, but to what extent are you sometimes relied upon by the company to be the governor on the engine of the creative, let's say, vibrancy, for lack of a better expression, of the devs? Like they may want to do something, and you're like, oh my Lord, that is so hardcore that like I got to stop you right here. Or is it really just about like liability and so on? So maybe you could talk about the tension between the creative product and the fact that you're the legal overlord. Sorry, Ryan. You're the legal. Sorry, dude. You're the legal overlord for the process.
I love this question, Gideon, because when I first got to Gearbox, I had this idea that they hated lawyers, and it wasn't helped by the fact that many game devs that I met were like scared of lawyers. So I felt like I was fighting this, well, not only that, but like for other reasons within the company, they just didn't like lawyers, right? That's what I thought. And I came in there thinking that, and I was like, I need to change this way of thinking because I am here to help you guys. I want you guys to be as creative as possible. Like put the gas in that engine and go, because I really want the games to be super fun and super creative. So how can I enable that? I took it upon myself to be as friendly as possible, to get to know the people that I'm working with. It's not like I sit on some high chair and I'm like, no, this can't go in the game. Now, I really don't like to do that unless it's like a really big risk. So the best way to answer your question is in terms of risk. Is this thing that's going in this game, is this the hill, Mrs. Developer, that you're willing to die on? Because if it's something that's going to be really, really, really risky, we have to make this analysis of, well, is the return going to outweigh the huge liability and risk that it has? Right? Totally. So I like to look at it in terms of that instead of just like a hard black and white no. And as well, if there is something in the game that's a little too close to something else, for example, or something that's just a little too much in the legal risk world, I love to work with the devs to be like, okay, can't do this, but like, how can we change it to make it like this? And then I actually get to even have some input sometimes. And that part I love.
I got you.
I love that perspective from an in-house attorney. Like clients always tell me they hate the in-house attorneys that tell them no, as opposed to the in-house attorneys that help them get to yes.
Yes.
And that's the perspective you seem to be lending, which isn't just no, it's all right, I see what you're trying to do. I love it. Here's how you can still make it happen. And that's the perspective. Exactly. I want to ask you a lot more about just the work that you're doing, but I do want to make sure we get this particular question in because I just see it here and it's blinking at me. And I use this phrase all the time, but I'd be committing interviewer malpractice if I didn't ask you about this. As we mentioned before, you are a Miamian, fellow Miamians here, you and me. And oftentimes when people go to Miami from another, go to another city from Miami, as you did, because you're in Texas now, they often run into situations where they let their Miami culture out in the wrong situation, and it can offend outsiders. This happened to me when I was in New York. I used the phrase "eating bleep,"
yes.
SHT,
which means something else to them, by the way.
Yeah. So like, in Miami, we use that phrase to mean like, hanging out, doing nothing. And I didn't know until I used that phrase in New York that we're the only place that uses that phrase that way in the US. They looked at me with horrified faces. And I was like, oh, I let the Miami out in the wrong place. And so I've heard that you had a situation at your company where you let Miami out in perhaps a not so great situation, and it led to something a little zany at your company. Can you tell us about this?
Oh my God, it was so funny. This was like my 4th month on the job, and we had just got all sent home because of COVID, so we were all working from home. And I was on a very important meeting with a whole bunch of stakeholders, but among them was our chief operating officer. And we were talking about, I forgot what, but it was something important, I promise. And I directed one of my questions that I had, very important legal topic, to someone in the call, but the chief operating officer chimed in and started to answer. And I just go, Miami AF, excuse me, I wasn't talking to you. And then everybody in the call started laughing. And then he was laughing and I was laughing. And I was like, did I just mess up really bad? Operating officer, oh my God. So after the call, I was like, I messaged him. I was like, hey, I'm so sorry if I offended you. I didn't mean anything by it. I actually really like you. Like, please don't think anything of it. And he was like, no, I please, I enjoy a good ribbing. And then we became even closer after that. So I was like really happy that it worked out, but I was also really stressed in the moment that I might have potentially like effed everything up.
Oh my God.
Good ending.
And, like, you did it with that exact inflection and everything, like full Miami.
I said, excuse me, I'm not talking to you. Like, I don't know what came over me in that moment. I just went full Miami, and I learned that from that experience that there's a time and place, and sometimes it works, but that's a bet. That's a bet that I have to hedge. So.
And boy, did you just like, go for broke there, just using it on your COO 4 months into the job.
4 months into the job. God. It was risky, but that's how we do. So,
yeah. But he respected you for it. It sounds like.
Right. That's
there you go.
I love that. It had a happy ending. That's what I'll say.
You can follow our guest on all sorts of platforms, X, Instagram, Twitch, at Vault Hunter Vito. The other thing I like about you as an entertainment lawyer, Veda, and I always love the entertainment lawyers who live the product, right? They're getting high on their clients' supply. This isn't just, oh, I do this job, those people do their entertainment thing, but I'm just the lawyer. Like, you embrace this. You are a streamer, you are a cosplayer, you are fully immersed in this world. Does this like help you in your work, or just, are you just like, you just see this as like a thing that you do and it's like a helpful byproduct, or does like fully getting into this world make you better at what you do as an attorney?
Oh my God, 100%. And to that end, I've even gone so far as to start training in Unreal Engine to learn how to code a game. And I'm actually almost done with my very first game. Yeah. So
no kidding. That's awesome.
Yes,
cool.
I love it. It's so fun. It's so cool. I felt that I had to learn the process of game development inside and out in order to be the best in-house counsel that I could be. So I set upon that journey to just explore every area of game dev. So I'm training in Unreal. I've also I took like the writing test for Gearbox and just like came up with a character and a dialogue scene and everything just to try my hands at it, and I got feedback from the writers. Next up is voice acting, so I'm looking into that. So if you know anybody, but anyway, sorry. So just trying to explore all the areas of game dev in order to understand where they're coming from. Because if you don't understand what the client truly wants and cares about, how are you going to provide the best legal advice possible? That's my opinion. So not only has my journey into game development helped me with my job, but the peripheral stuff, like the streaming, for example, I love that. And now I understand when I do an influencer contract, what they care about, right? So with the cosplaying thing too, cosplaying is just something that I've done for years. Like I used to do it all the time and post my pictures on Facebook. I had like a little bit of a following in South Florida, and it's just so fun. And to be able to get into the character it just reminds me that like we want to have fun at the game studio at the end of the day, and we want to create characters that are memorable that people will want to cosplay. Things like that remind me that what we're doing is really special and it really touches people's lives, you know?
I bet you've never been that inspired by an attorney in your life, Gideon. How great was that answer?
Yeah, well, here's the problem. I no longer believe Veda's an attorney.
Whoa!
Because attorneys are never this excited, and so like it's clear that you never got a law degree. To me, this whole show's a fraud, Ryan. It's over.
I have a bar card. Do you want me to show you?
I believe you.
She didn't get a law degree. She got a law degree and an MBA.
Okay, maybe that's what happened.
That explains it. Yeah, that's what I think we're hearing. Like all this like fun, engaging stuff. That's the MBA talking. I've never been bored by an MBA. I think the most interesting class I took in law school was the classes that I got to take at the business school.
Nice.
Right.
And I mean, just a quick aside on this, because it's so true. Like when you know, and Veda knows this about lawyers in law school. Like in law school, when class is over, all the introverts, you pack up your bag, you leave, you run to the library, you put your head in a book. And so when I'm taking my first class at the business school at our law school, the class ends and I start packing up and going to the library because that's what we lawyers are supposed to do. And I look up and nobody's left because they're all just standing around networking, having conversations, shooting the breeze. And I was like, oh, we're the weird ones. Business people are actually interesting and enjoy each other's company.
I can vouch for that, by the way, because when I was in law school, I felt like a bit of a loner. Like I felt like I didn't really fit in with a lot of the crowd, maybe because I was like really nerdy or whatever it was. But when I got to the MBA program, I really felt like I found people that just wanted to talk to me, and I wanted to talk to them. Like it was just a much more environment that was easy to talk to people in. And that's just something very interesting dichotomy between law school and the MBA program.
Well, do you know what I think it might have also been? Because you were a theater kid, right?
Yep, I did theater in high school and undergrad.
There you go. Yeah, I was a theater kid too, and had a similar experience at law school. I think theater kids and law school, like that doesn't mix well. I didn't really start to love law school until I found like the group of students at the school that put on the parody musical that lampooned the professors.
For like
you were in that too? Of course you were.
Yeah. What was it called? Oh my God. I forgot.
Well, at our school, we called it Law Review, but REVUE.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
All right. Well, now we've got seriously off topic. Okay. So I had about 1,000 more questions for you about indie creators. We've blown through our time because I selfishly wanted to talk to you about law school, but that's okay because I think it's pretty clear we need to have you on a lot more often anyway. You can follow our guest on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Vault Hunter Veda. You also have the Instagram account at Power Up Books, where you talk about some of your favorite books. That is a beautiful, beautiful Instagram page. I know our producer Lauren has fallen in love with this page. Oh, she's got a picture of it. Oh my God, look how beautiful this Instagram page is. Oh my God. At Power Up Books. This is gorgeous, Veda. Oh yeah, in addition to everything else that she does, Veda also comes from a social media marketing background, as if that wasn't made quite obvious by how great this Instagram profile looks. So lots of things to like about you. Before we let you go, we got one last question for you. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
You mean legal tips or just general? Just
general.
General?
We want to tap into your full base of experience, however you want to address this question.
Okay, yes. The biggest thing I say at GDC, and that I'll share again for indie creators, is to please think outside the box when it comes to getting whatever you want. Because the path that everybody has taken might be the most difficult path for you. But if you think outside the box and think creatively about your approach and how you want to get where you want to go, you're going to come up with some solutions that no one's ever thought of, and you'll be the first one to do those things. Trailblazers. That's what you want to do. That's my biggest advice.
I love that. And certainly you are embodying that. Veda, this has been a treat. Please don't be a stranger. We got so many more things to talk to you about going forward. We'd love to have you on again real soon.
Thank you so much for everything, Ryan. And nice to meet you, Gideon.
Yeah, nice to
meet you.
Our
thanks to Veda Cruz. Our thanks to Gideon King and producer Lauren. And thanks to all of you viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We'll see you next week.